Well, welcome in once again, everybody, to another edition of, we think it's a great show. We get a lot of great feedback of Pick Your Politics. I'm Dennis Silvers, along with my terrific co-host, Stephanie Phillips. And this is the show that, well, we don't try. We do bring you relevant, important information, topical information about politics, both statewide here, both locally in Clark County, as well as national guests. And things are starting to heat up, Stephanie, because we 10 weeks till the election here in November?
Yeah, it's coming up quick. And school choice is a big item right now. Parents are really paying attention to that. Arizona just passed that. So I think other states are going to follow.
Yeah.
And so this is really an important issue for parents all over the country.
All over. It's been a lot in the news about school choice, about teachers, about the curriculum, about school boards, about vouchers, about private schools. I mean, it's a hot topic.
Yeah.
And if political candidates aren't talking about it, I think they're missing the boat.
Right. And we have a couple of experts in the field coming on today. So
yeah, we've got two very, very good guests. And let me tell you a little bit about our first guest that we're bringing on. Erin Phillips is the co-founder and president of a nonprofit called Power to Parent Union. She is also spearheading an organization called Education Freedom for Nevada PAC. She is passionate about empowering parents to advocate for their children along with their own voice, of course. As the first parent union in Nevada with more than 10,000 members, that's great. It now has grown to 6 states across the United States and is growing, which is nice to hear. Erin is a regular guest on business radio, and she has represented her organization both on local and national news as well. So there's a good chance that people out there have seen her on television and heard her on the airwaves. She's a wife, she's a mother, she has 5 children, and of course she makes her family is her biggest passion, which is only natural. So we'd like to welcome Erin Phillips right now. And Erin, let me clear the air. No relationship to my co-host, Stephanie, right?
Correct. Not that I know of, at least.
Yeah, we've known each other for a while. I want to introduce you to Mulligan. This is what we call him, our decision dog. He's actually mine. He's a Pomeranian. He loves being on the show. He likes talking politics too, right?
He's our beloved mascot.
Yeah, he's our beloved mascot. Yes. But Erin, let me kick it off and ask you this. In your view, one or two, since we're here locally in Las Vegas, in Clark County, one or two of the biggest problems you see in the Clark County School District as being a parent?
Yeah, good question. So I would say the biggest problem I see in the district right now is really just our lack of learning. So the kids, the test scores and proficiency is extraordinarily low. Right now, I believe the correct number is only 1 in 3 3rd through 8th graders are proficient in reading and at grade level. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really low. And they've really lowered the standards instead of sort of raising the bar and trying to get kids to go higher and meet those higher standards. They've really lowered the bar to kind of skew the data, in my opinion. So I'd say that's the biggest issue. And then I think the second biggest issue would follow right behind that would be the responsiveness of the district, because there's just not enough choice in this whole state for families where the public school isn't working for their child. So parental rights in that realm, to me, is a huge issue.
Yeah. I talk to kids. You go to restaurants that are servers or wherever they happen to be working. And the overall feeling, Erin, is that kids don't really like school that much today. I don't need an education. I want to go out and work. I want to save money. I want to get a car. I want to go out and date. There's just no real incentive. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think attendance has always been an issue in this particular city in Las Vegas because we are such a heavy hospitality
Yeah.
oriented state and really city. And so I know that like a lot of kids we have a huge eighth grade dropout problem here where a lot of people aren't really just talking about that because they can leave and they can go get jobs, in the hospitality
Right.
industry and make what in their, assessment is a lot of money, and so they don't feel the need to finish their education. But I also think we don't put a value on that as a society here as much as they do in other states as well for the same reasons. So yeah, I do think that that's a huge problem. But our attendance is another big problem that we should be talking about. They just revealed the numbers at the last school board meeting in Clark County that our attendance is like, I mean, it's like 47% attendance
Wow.
Oh, wow.
rates right
Wow.
now. Yeah, since COVID, since we've returned from COVID. So it was bad before. It's way worse than it's ever been right now.
That,
It's a huge
that's
problem.
that's really poor.
Yeah, those numbers are bad. Everybody hears school choice all across the country. Can you explain? Because a lot of people don't know what exactly that means. Could
Right.
you give an explanation to the folks listening, Erin, what exactly that means?
Yeah, I mean, I think the simplest explanation for school choice is just allowing every family to be able to choose the classroom that fits the need of their child best. And when you only have public school as an option, you get this public school monopoly where, they can't leave based on their zip code, right? So we're really relegating kids to failing schools
Right.
based on zoning,
Yeah.
which is really, frankly, if we want to talk about equity, which we hear a lot about, there's not equal access to quality education for those families. And so what we want to talk about when we talk about school choice, because it is a kind of a buzzword, and like you said, everyone's talking about it. We want the families to be the experts, because we know that they are, at what their child needs and what they need to be educated, and to be able to go wherever that is and find that educational option. So it's really more options for families in order to give kids quality education.
So if this initiative gets passed in Nevada, how does that work with funding? And does that go to the parents and then they can put their child wherever they want to? Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, essentially, we passed a law in 2015, actually, in Nevada, one of the first in the country, that was an education savings account law. And when the Democrats sued, the courts found that the program itself was constitutional, but the funding mechanism was not. And before the Republicans had an opportunity to fix that, the Democrats actually removed it from the NRS, the Nevada Revised Statute. So it's no longer a law. So what we did with Education Freedom for Nevada PAC was we filed 2 ballot initiatives that would potentially allow people to put this issue on the ballot. And if we were able to do that or pass something legislatively, the idea would be that kids could take 90% of the base per pupil funding, which is about $7,000 per kid, and they could take that and would go into a education savings and education freedom account, and then that money could be used to pay authorized providers that the parents chose. So it could be a micro school, it could be an online curriculum that a parent wanted to purchase, an online school. It could be for a charter school, it could be for a private school. So really just more options for families, and the families be able to direct that.
Yeah, no, that's good. Erin Phillips is our special guest for this edition of Pick Your Politics. And Erin, let me ask you this. What has promulgated the problems, do you think, with parents losing their voice more and more throughout the entire country, sparking a real divide between them and teachers, between parents and teachers? What's causing that?
Well, I think it's probably, it's a really multi-layered answer to that. But I would say just first and foremost that there's a lot of great teachers out there. And I think what has happened has not been a problem between parents and teachers as much as it has been a problem between the teachers' unions and the families. And so and the problem that I see first and foremost is that these teachers' unions, they collect dues from the teachers,
Right.
and then they use a majority of those funds to support candidates, and 98 to 99% of them are Democrat candidates, who will continue to funnel money and elect candidates who don't believe that parents are the experts, that don't want more choice. And it just feeds this education establishment
Right.
and maintains the status quo, because they don't want to disrupt the status quo and allow families to have more choice, right? Because you bring in competition, and it really allows there to be more options and better options, and it requires the districts and the teachers to be more responsive to the parents, and frankly, it makes them have to work a little bit harder probably in some ways.
Yep.
But we also know school choice programs are good for teachers, because then you also have competition for teachers, and then the teachers choose the educational setting that fits them best as well. So what we've been seeing is that the teachers unions have been pushing, and we saw this in 2020. We've been talking about this for a long time, and it's really why we reorganized the parent union, because we saw that the teachers unions were pushing these crazy policies, and they really had an outsized influence on what parents were being able to do with their kids, and the options that we had, and the ability that we had to teach from our personal worldview. And so we wanted to have a union of parents, because there's more of us, right? And we really needed a seat at the table and a collective voice of empowered parents to be able to come and stand up against some of these policies that the unions are pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And the curriculum too. We've got CRT in the curriculum now, I think in 17 states across the country. We've got this hyper-sexualized sex education that they're trying to push down our children's throats. And what do you think about that? Where does that stand in the state of Nevada in our school curriculum, Erin?
Yeah, so, really, just a brief history of Power to Parent. The reason why we actually started this organization was because of this issue in surrounding sex education. In Clark County, they were bringing in outside organizations to put comprehensive sexuality education K through 12 into our schools. And so when that was brought to light, we really, as a group of parents, started to just gather other parents and flood a school board meeting. And they ended up removing that curriculum. And so that was 8 years ago.
Wow.
So we were sort of doing the domestic terrorist thing before it was cool.
Yeah.
And
oh, gosh.
So we realized, though, it wasn't really about sex education. It was really about this idea that it more of a social engineering that we could see, where the goal was to circumvent parents in the decision-making process in regards to curriculum. And if you can do that, and the parents don't know what's going on, then you can really begin to, I hate to use the word indoctrinate, but really there's not another really great word, to indoctrinate kids into an ideology that the parents may or may not agree with. And so when we saw that, that's where we realized we needed to stand up against these organizations who were really, really well funded and had been doing this for many years. And so the history of sex education and the history of CRT and curriculum goes really, really deep. It goes really far back to like the 60s and maybe even farther.
Wow.
And it's too much for even just this show, I'm sure, to talk about. But the reality is that parents are, finally waking up to the reality of this, and they're really pushing back, because they are seeing that it's not what they believe. It's not what they want their kids to be taught. And they're saying, no, we need to know when these things are being taught, and we need to be able to either say yes or no. And that's something that just came up again. I mean, we've been doing this 8 years, like I said. It has almost come up every single session. We've stopped comprehensive sexuality education statewide for 7 or 8 years. We've stopped it in the Clark County School District for years. And then what we're seeing is you're getting the Department of Education in Nevada, who are changing policies internally outside, again, the scope of parents. And so now some of the things we've stopped for so long are seeping back in.
Yeah, speaking about sex education, the high school that I went to, Erin, was so small that sex ed and driver's training was taught in the same car.
Oh my gosh. You're so bad.
Oh, glad you got that.
That's terrible.
Would you say that it is because of the convincing ways that the instructor has, or is it more the gullibility or the naivete of the students that some of them are starting to buy this garbage about sex education?
Well, I would say it's multiple things. I think you get the kind of ideology that comes in through curriculum, but you also have so much of social media and pop culture, and even frankly the mainstream media, that these kids are being inundated with these messages, and
Yeah.
so they're hearing it from all sides. And so then when the teachers come in and then they do present this ideology, it's kind of on a tee for them in some ways, especially if the parents haven't been already having these conversations with them.
Right.
A lot of people have asked you if you would ever run for office. Have you changed your mind and would you run?
Oh my gosh, I have way too many kids to run for office right now. I've got like 4 school drop-offs right now. So I would say not in the cards for me at this stage of my life.
Yeah, it's a big job. You say that you identify, you train, you mobilize parents to empower them to advocate for themselves and of course their kids. How do you do that? What is the process that you use?
Yeah, I mean, we do quite a few things. We have a lot of events where we really try to bring parents in around issues or bring speakers in and really empower them that way. But we have a parent leadership academy that is something we've been developing for a while, that we can, train large groups of parents or small groups of parents
Mm-hmm.
at one time on just how to enter into these conversations with your teachers, administrators, how to engage in a legislative process. And then we also keep parents really informed all the time. So we're monitoring meetings, we're monitoring agendas, we're going to meetings, we're helping parents see when there's opportunities for them to be on committees or task forces where they are part of developing curriculum, et cetera. So we do a lot of different things. We have a newsletter, we have a blog, we do a ton on social media. So we have multiple ways that we inform parents.
So if you had your choice and you were in charge of everything, Erin, what would you, I'm giving you a lot of latitude here. So would you abolish the Department of Education at the federal level, bring that to the states? Would you, what would you do on school board and laws here in Nevada? What would be the perfect ideal situation that you think would everyone would love?
I think that's a great question. I would focus on what I'm really already focused on now, which is really empowering parents by allowing those tax dollars to follow the student. And if we do that, then the parents have the ability to direct the education of their child. You bring accountability into the system. You inject competition into the system, and we know that it raises test scores of the kids in public schools. And then you have to have a more responsive school district in general, as far as trustees, teachers, administrators, because they want to keep kids in their seats at their schools. And so I think if you just had that funding follow the child, I think we would see huge amounts of progress I would say from the bottom up. If I had to say one thing, that would be it. That would be the silver bullet, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And maybe some redirection of education funds,
Right.
because there's some really big salaries being paid that are probably exorbitant,
Yeah.
and
Without a doubt.
probably those funds would be better used elsewhere.
Without
I
a
would
doubt.
say.
You are in 5 or 6 different states, which I think is great. What are the methods that you use to recruit people in other states to keep your message going forward and to grow your organization in those states?
Yeah, I mean, we are relatively new at being national, and as far as a parent union goes. And what we've done is we've had so many parents all over the country reaching out to us for years, saying, how can we do what you've done in Nevada? How can we duplicate that? How can we empower the parents in our state? So what we've done is we've just taken what we've done here, and we've really tried to help train and empower state directors, because every state is so different. All the laws are so different. All the districts are so different. So we really tried to train our state directors to identify, kind of the pockets of parents, like whether it be by county or city, and then find parents in those, in those pockets where they can empower those parents and train them and get people to join the union and do what we're doing here, which is give them Parent Leadership Academy training and, have events that are relevant to them, and help identify what's going on in their schools. We are the parents. We can't be everywhere, right? So we need to empower parents
Right.
And there's a lot of us all
Yeah.
over. So that's the goal, is we're just empowering those parents in these other states, and then they are taking the ball and running with it, because all parents want a good education for their child, quality
Sure.
education, and they want to be in charge. It's these mama bears out there. They're not going to back down when it comes to the education and the
Yeah.
well-being of their children.
Yeah. So if we get that approved and the parents are now in charge of those dollars, I understand it now, and this had to go to the Supreme Court, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they were trying to keep these dollars from going to private schools. Is that right? And then the Supreme Court said, no, you can use these funds wherever you would like to.
So there's been different court cases. There's been the U.S. Supreme Court did hear some school choice cases, which was Montana versus or the Montana Department of Education versus Espinoza, and that was where they did address that sort of religious liberty piece, saying that if they were going to let the families take the funds, they could not stop them from taking them to religious schools, to parochial schools. So that was a big win for school choice. In Nevada, we are actually waiting for the Nevada Supreme Court to give us a ruling on our ballot initiative to see whether or not we can actually get the signatures on that. And their issue in this case is about the funding. And so we're waiting to hear from the Nevada Supreme Court if we can direct the legislature to fund education freedom accounts for families. And if we get a green light on that, we can start collecting those signatures.
Right.
But we need 141 signatures by November 23rd. So we're going to be hitting the ground running the minute we have a decision on that.
That's
Yeah,
good.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
The other day, Sisolak signed an emergency order that there was a teacher shortage, right?
Right.
So is that lack of funds? Is that just people don't want to come to Nevada, or what's the source of
Yeah.
that?
If you look at teacher pay sort of nationally, Nevada actually is towards the top in teacher compensation. I believe we're like top 17 in the country for teacher compensation. Now, that doesn't mean that teachers probably wouldn't want to get paid more, and it's not to say I don't think they should get paid more. I think we should value our teachers. I think they're professionals, but I think a lot of what we've seen has come out of COVID. The mismanagement by Governor Sisolak in regards to COVID and keeping our classrooms shut down. They were actually trying to protect teachers and instead of students
Right.
by keeping
Yeah.
our schools shut down for 18 months. I believe there were a lot of teachers that were very angry and just are very dissatisfied in the way that these larger districts like Clark County are handling a lot of the testing and reporting and not having enough resources. And then we've seen a huge behavioral shift, right, in the behavioral and mental health of our kids since we've returned
Yeah.
to classrooms as well.
Right.
I mean, imagine putting your kids online for 18 months, not prioritizing education, and then bringing them all back in, and now they're suffering from all this anxiety and depression, and there's our suicide numbers have gone through the roof, which is just devastating. So
Yeah.
teachers feel like they can't even teach in the
Yeah.
classrooms because they are managing behavior.
Right.
That-
Would you break up the school district? There's a lot
I
of
was just
talk
gonna ask
about
that. Yeah, I'm just
breaking
gonna
up
ask that.
to 5 different districts or however many. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think breaking up the district is a great option. I think what we need to see is more local control. And the needs of the kids in North Las Vegas are very unique and very different than the needs of the kids and the families in like Mesquite. Mesquite is part of Clark County School District. It's
Right.
an hour and a half. So we need to have these rural counties that, they let them run the district the way it makes sense for their families. And I think you'll have more responsiveness that way. You'll be able to use the funds better in that way. So yeah, I do think breaking up the school district is a really great plan. I think we'll still have a lot of the same issues in regards to needing more choice and having the unions still have a lot of power, which is why I don't think the Democrats are really pushing against this breaking up the school district as much as they have in the past. But what I'd like to see is a combination of things. We need more options. Again, I can't say it enough. We need more choices for families. So I think break up the school district, but also allow that funding to follow the student so that the parents can take their education, they can have that competition, they can have that accountability.
Erin, who do you think bears the brunt of the responsibility? Is it more the school board that a lot of people think just call the shots entirely, or is it the school superintendent?
So I think there's a little bit of a cyclical problem here where the superintendent is hired by the school board. And so if he tries to make some, sort of sweeping operational changes, which is sort of his area is operations, what I have seen is he gets a lot of pushback
Yeah.
from the board. And then you have a lot of obvious just chaos and mismanagement on the school board, and a lot of unqualified people on the school board, and so then there's just a lot of chaos and infighting. So I think it's a cyclical problem. Ultimately, the school board, you have one trustee over like 75,000 people in their district.
Right.
Some of them are more, I think. You can't meet the needs of the kids in your district when there's 75,000 kids in a district. Those are huge districts. And then, these are serious seats, right? We hardly pay the trustees any money. So they have to have other jobs. This can't be their sole focus.
Right.
And so unless we start paying the trustees more, having some requirements for professionalism and education requirements, things like that, I don't think we're going to have a serious school board, to be totally honest with you. And so hoping that we'll see some changes, in this upcoming legislative session in regards to that. In fact, it was one of the priorities that the board actually put forward was to have some kind of changes to how we structure and empower the school board. And I think that would be really important.
Yeah.
That's good. What is your answer to school safety? There's a lot of teachers being attacked, assaulted. There's kids that are fighting, constantly, people bringing guns to school. What's your answer for that?
Well, my answer would have been don't shut down schools for 18 months. But
Right.
since we're past
Number one.
not that violence wasn't a problem before COVID,
Right.
because it was. We just know it's increased year over year for, I think, the last 6 years. The Las Vegas Sun actually did a good report on that and showed that it's increased year over year. I think, we're removing the parents out of this conversation. When it comes to education, they keep trying to change opt-in for sex education, for example, to opt-out. And the schools are providing more and more to the kids as far as like social services, right? And so what we're doing is we're just kind of chipping away at involving the parents in education in general.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one indicator for success for kids in school, this is across the board, studies, many studies have been done on this. It's parental engagement. It's parental involvement.
Right.
And so if we are continuing to push these policies that remove parents, that circumvent parents, saying that the parents are not the experts, the teachers are the experts, the admin are the experts, the school board are the experts, whoever else, we are just chipping away at this idea of like family and parent empowerment. And it's completely backfiring. And this is where the discipline issues are really coming from, ultimately, I believe.
That's
Well,
so true.
speaking about backfire, we got about
Yeah.
a minute left. I just want to divert a little bit. What's your personal opinion about the loan forgiveness that President Biden wants to do? I think personally it's going to cause a lot of grief for them. There's going to be some pushback. But what's your opinion on it having school-age children that are looking forward to going to college?
Yeah. I think, giving people money never really solves the ultimate problem. So what problem are we trying to solve? Are we trying to solve that, school's too expensive? Well, if that's the case, then are they planning on paying for school for everybody from this point forward? The problem that we know for sure is inflation. Does it solve the problem of inflation? So I think the biggest problem I see is not just that we're giving people money, and I think, help, quote unquote, helping people who took out too much money that they couldn't afford or whatever. We're not teaching personal responsibility. We're not teaching planning ahead. We're not solving the problem of why school is so expensive. We're not solving the problem of why some of these large universities have already so much money that they're getting from the federal government, and then charging, just astronomical amount of money for these degrees that the kids can't pay for, and then it's just a cyclical problem. So I don't think that we've solved anything, and in fact I think we've made some of the existing problems worse. So I don't think this was the right choice, and we know the timing is very much about getting votes, and unfortunately
Of
I
course.
think it's probably going to work for some people, right? Because
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
money.
Yeah,
Well, and
it's
it
all,
teaches
it's all
the-
coincidental
it's-
timing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it just teaches the kids that they're going to get a free ride, it seems
Yeah.
like. And there's
Yeah.
really nothing that's free because it's on the
Yeah.
American taxpayers' back. But
Yeah.
before we let you go, I wanted to bring up your gala that you had. It was in March, right? This year,
Yeah.
the first one, and it was a fundraiser for your organization. Just, I want you to talk about that, and then if you're going to plan on doing that again next year.
Yeah, it was so awesome. It was our
Yeah.
first, annual gala, and we had about 300 people there. It was such a beautiful night. Corey DeAngelis, who is from the American Federation for Children and huge school choice proponent, came, was our keynote speaker. He did an incredible job, and we were able to honor some of our families that, had been a part of our organization with some, school supplies and some different things like that. So it was just a really sweet time. And we are excited that we are, in fact, having our second annual gala, same in March, but it's going to be March 6th, I believe, which is a Saturday night in 2023. So we're already planning. In fact, we're going to try to send our save the dates out this next week. We're getting ready to do that.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
You have my address, don't you?
Well, I'm sure you're going to give it to me, I think.
Believe me.
It might get lost in the mail, so I don't know.
Oh my God. Anyway, Erin, you've been absolutely fantastic. Congratulations to you and your organization and the work that you do. And we're just hoping, Stephanie and I, you grow exponentially because what you're doing is very important, and we look forward to helping you out any way we can with your events and stuff. And we just want to congratulate you and thank you for taking the time out to come on the show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
we'll talk
Erin.
to you. Thank you very much, Erin Phillips, everybody. Yeah, hot topic.
Yeah, she's a busy lady. She's a
Yeah.
smart lady and a huge motivator, and she's so involved, and I
Yeah.
love it. She
Yeah.
does great work, and she's making a huge difference.
Very, very,
yeah.
very important. And
Yep.
like we say, every show, let me get Mulligan up here. Don't
Yeah.
forget, elections coming up, vet your candidates and school board, local, national, whatever. And the most important thing is get out and vote. So anyway, for Stephanie Phillips, I'm Dennis Silvers. We'll see you next show on Pick Your Politics. So long, everybody.
See you later.